Hello, everybody. This is the Beef and the Deuce podcast coming to you on YouTube. Hopefully, our tech will hold out and we'll get a full program in here. Deuce, how's it working on your end?
Well, you're the Deuce. I'm the Beef.
Did I say
You're
beef?
all over the place. You're all over the place.
I am beef part 2. So anyway, and that didn't make sense either. Let's get moving here because I have no idea why. Anyway, so great football on Saturday. Amazingly good football on Saturday. Weren't they all? Wasn't the Georgia, Oregon, and ACC game? They're all 1-point games, right? 1-score games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised Georgia pulled it off.
Yeah, and
especially with Carson Beck being out, which I'm sure will go into the game.
And what a strange game that one was.
That was
one touchdown apiece.
Yeah.
It was a real boring game in the first half, and then it got really. And even when it was boring, it was kind of interesting because they were just slinging the ball. Both teams.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it was.
So go ahead. You started off.
I was under the impression that Texas would somehow pull it off.
Yeah, I thought they would.
Like Quinn Ewers was slinging. Like it wasn't like, numbers popping off the charts. But I mean, he had over 300-something yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Carson Beck going down, you thought, yeah, this is probably over.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't.
It was at 6-3 at halftime, right? 6-3 at halftime.
Yeah, it's just
like for all that yardage.
Somehow Kirby Smart just pulled it away.
Yeah, for all that
it was ugly football in the second half, and they somehow pulled it away.
Yeah, into overtime. Amazing. Is Georgia the charm team this year? Winning in overtime last week, or the last game, and then this game, 2 overtime wins. That's amazing.
It kind of seems that way. It seems like the experience of Kirby. Yeah. And just, being used to these right stages, these big stages, it's paying off.
Find a way to win. That's what the big teams do, right? Find a way.
But, yeah, I mean,
But what are they doing?
It's weird because there's not really a team, I guess, as a whole. Like, Oregon even looked vulnerable.
Yeah, they did, amazingly. I thought they were just going to stomp all over Penn State in the first half and the rest of the game.
Yeah, and Penn State found probably the most offense that they've had against a quality opponent all year.
Yeah, without really passing the ball. It was a ground game, and the quarterback won, wasn't it, mostly?
Yeah, I mean, their 1-2 punch in the backfield solid.
Yeah, I mean, they were basically one-dimensional against Oregon, and they were kicking Oregon's butt.
Yeah,
that was weird.
I mean, just outside runs, up the gap. I mean, you name it, they did it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I thought Penn State was, relatively impressive, and now when we go into the CFP, you'll see the luxury that they have at their seating placement.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, overall, like the SMU game with Clemson was great. Came down to a last-second field goal.
Yeah.
I mean, the only blowout really was
Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona State, and then if you really cared a lot about, like, MAC football, like, OU absolutely demolished Miami, Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah, Army took it to Tulane.
God, an Army just took it to them.
Ooh. I'm impressed.
I mean, that's how you win a game with 17 passing yards. Just run the ball down their throat.
Yes, sir.
But, yeah, I mean, overall, just an amazing Saturday of football, Friday and Saturday.
Wasn't it amazing? Just like, it went late, and I'm just like, I am so happy. I'm just so happy to watch these games. I'm like,
I'm happy to not move and watch football.
I didn't even go work out.
I just sat there and did a bunch of nothing.
Did a bunch of nothing. Drank some beverages, lemonade. I don't. I was just shocked at how one-dimensional Penn State's offense was or became, and they just clobbered Oregon. What does this tell you about the Oregon defense? I mean, they held on to win, and good for them, obviously. But, man, they were just getting pushed all over the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think Oregon's got obviously some holes, and it started with looking at Penn State, just like I said, like we were just saying, running it down their throat.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, OSU has the best 1-2 punch in college football, I still believe.
Yeah, yeah.
So run the damn ball.
Well, do we have the offensive line to do that, though?
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
That's the question.
I didn't mean to go there.
That's going to be the question of the CFP for us, because roster-wise, we have the most talented roster in college football.
Mm-hmm.
On paper.
Tennessee's got a great front defense. They've got an excellent front seven on defense, and we don't have a great offensive line.
Yeah, it's a good matchup. It's a good matchup.
Yeah.
It's a good matchup. We'll dive into it, and I'll be curious to see what you think about this. The spread that is relatively big for a game like this.
Okay, I didn't check the
in
spread.
favor of the Buckeyes.
Okay. Yeah, but I was just very happy. I think I know there's controversy and everything, but I think basically this system really worked well so far, as far as the getting into the championship and the top 12 and all that.
Mm-hmm. And the big thing that I thought was more beneficial for the CFP committee was that Bama did not get in.
Yeah.
Because I felt like Bama gets in, then there's this massive controversy about brand name this and money that, and yeah, Bama has a better strength of schedule and some better wins, whatever. But
yeah,
at the end of the day,
they're a 9-3
SMU
team.
lost by 3.
Yeah.
They lost by 3 in the ACC championship game by a last-second field goal, and they've been in the top 10 for what seems like forever.
Yeah.
So you weigh, a 3-point loss in the ACC championship game, which shouldn't really have that much weight, or the bad losses that Bama has taken throughout the season.
Now here's my proposal or question to you. Everything equal before we went into this weekend. If Alabama beats Oklahoma, I think Alabama is in.
Oh yeah, no question.
It's that horrible loss.
Mm-hmm.
Gave them a 3 loss, and it looked still bad.
Yep, you scored 3 points.
Yeah, but I think if they'd handled their business against Oklahoma, I think they'd have been in. Either way.
Oh yeah, an easy win for that. That should have been relatively easy for them.
Yeah.
And they just blew it. Yeah, I mean that was your season, and now you get to go play Michigan in some BS bowl.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Saban's happy. Saban's thrilled.
Well, Saban, even in interviewing Saban on that show, he's like, no coach has a business complaining about any of this. He said the top teams got in. Alabama was in, and it's true, Alabama was in complete control of their destiny. The reason they're not in is because of Alabama.
Alabama beat themselves.
SMU didn't knock Alabama out. Alabama knocked themselves out.
Yep.
And, so he's like, now there is a strength of schedule problem here, and it's hard to resolve that. But still, I think these are the best teams that got in.
At the end of the day, you can't fault SMU.
No.
For playing in a championship game.
Yeah.
And barely losing. Now, you can say, if you're really going to critique SMU, the first half they looked like crap.
Yeah.
And Clemson was just destroying them. And then there's the SMU offense that anybody that's watched a little bit, if not a lot, of SMU football, there's this high-paced offense.
Yeah.
And then they're scoring off the charts, and they get it within
time.
I mean, they were up 2 or 3 points at the end of the game, and then Clemson gets the massive 50-plus yarder field goal. I mean, that's the beauty of college football.
That's what we love about that game.
It was a great game to watch.
Yeah, they all were. They all were fun. So I have to admit, I was rooting for Oregon. So
my bank account was rooting for Oregon too.
Was it really? Did it pay off well for you?
Yeah, I did okay.
It's just nice. It's just nice to know that Penn State still lost to the two best teams in the Big Ten.
Yep, and James Franklin still sucks. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, me too. So let's talk about the strength of schedule. I mentioned this to you earlier. Then we'll get into the actual playoffs, or the playoff system here. So how do you do strength of schedule between, let's say, SMU and Alabama? Let's just say SMU and Alabama. Clearly, Alabama had the stronger strength of schedule, right? Mm-hmm. So, but it's hard to quantify that. It's hard to go, well, this is what it is in relation to that, because they had more wins and Alabama had more losses. So here's just an idea that I had about an hour and a half ago. I was drinking a lot of lemonade at the time. Love me some
lots of soda pops.
Love me some lemonade. So it's a point system for wins to determine strength of schedule. And this is just an early idea. We can work on it during the week, maybe put it out on X, who knows. But anyway, so let's say you're an FBS team. You're going to have to be an FBS team. There's 9 FBS conferences. So you beat, and the results and the rankings are based on how each team did in the current season. So in other words, if you beat a top 5 team from last year, let's say Michigan's a great example. Okay, they were the national champions, but they weren't the national champions this year. Mm-hmm. So it's how Michigan ended up this year as far as their ranking goes. Okay, so you beat an FBS team, you get a point. Good for you. Now, let's say you booked a non-FBS team, like Ohio State would do, like Youngstown State. I don't think Youngstown State's in the FBS, are they?
They should be, yes.
Really? Their conference?
Yeah, they should be FBS.
Okay. Anyway, so then that doesn't make sense. But anyway, if they're some of these games that they're playing early on are maybe they are. Anyway, you get 0 points for beating a non-FBS team. Okay?
Okay.
You don't deserve it.
Okay.
So you beat an FBS team, like a Youngstown, like OSU beats Youngstown State. They get a point. They're an FBS team. Now, for every conference win that Ohio State has, they get 2 points. So they're going to play 9 conference games, and so they could get 18 points there and some more. But let's say the team you played at the end of the year, you played them early and you beat them, but at the end of the year, let's say they're in the top 30, like say in Indiana or something like that. Okay. Well, you get 3 points for beating a top 30 nationally ranked team. And if you beat a top 10 team in the FBS, ranked top 10 at the end of the year, then you'll get 4 points. So Oregon beating Ohio State would have gotten them 4 points. Mm-hmm. Ohio State beating Indiana would have gotten them 4 points. Ohio State beating Penn State would have gotten them 4 points. And then for every other team they played, I don't think there were any other. Well, they beat Illinois. Illinois is now top 20, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they would have gotten 3 points. Did we play Illinois this year? Let's say we did, and we beat them. That would have been 3 points. So anyway, at the end of the year, it all totals up. And then I'm thinking, what about, because Saban was bringing up scheduling out of conference games, because he says that Alabama's scheduled to play Ohio State and they're scheduled to play some other teams, and he wants to encourage that. But if it's going to be a hindrance to your points or your strength of schedule, then they're just not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, then there's just no point.
Yeah, there's no point. So if you are scheduling an out-of-conference team that, say, ends up being in the top, now this is we can really work this one around, But let's say Ohio State scheduled. Let's say they scheduled Alabama this year in their out of conference game, and let's say they beat them. So that's a top 30 win out of conference, and so you would get a point or something like a point or 2 points, whatever, for scheduling that. So you were incentivized to schedule out of conference, higher ranking out of conference teams, which is going to improve everything. So that's basically it in a nutshell. And I've got some other things, but that's generally it's just the point system. Is the better you are, the better you play, the better the team you play, the more points you get.
Yeah.
And that's just your strength of schedule at the end of the year. And so you can say Indiana isn't going to get a lot of strength of schedule points, right? Because they lost to. Now, they're not going to get points taken away from losing to Ohio State, but they're not going to get a lot of points other than, let's say, the 1 point or whatever that they get for beating the other teams.
Okay.
Versus Ohio State or a Penn State, who would have more points based on, and they would basically surpass Indiana based on their strength of schedule.
Yeah, that makes it easy.
So you can. So
then it doesn't go to waste if you do.
And it's more quantifiable. It's more like, yeah, okay, because the SEC people are saying, well, we have a bigger strength of schedule. Okay. Now let's get a way to show it rather than just think it. You know what I mean? Well,
because right now it's all how do you look from the committee's eye?
Yeah, how do you look? How do you look playing LSU? Okay, you beat them. How good was LSU? Well, whatever.
Now, would you change it from end of season to where they were ranked, like in the beginning, or is this all just how they look at the I guess end of the season?
Well, you could go either. I mean, I don't care. I just thought maybe at the end of the year is a better determination of how good the team was.
Yeah, I mean, that makes. I mean, the more I think about it, it does make a little bit more sense because you could be preseason top 5 in your Florida State and you just absolutely blow.
Unless you would do the rankings right at the very beginning, and then you would get the points based on, let's say, Indiana beats whoever, but they're not ranked in the top 30 or whatever, top 30, top 40, I don't know, whatever. And so they would get a point. But if they played Ohio State early on, and Ohio State's ranked in the top 5 or top 10, and they beat them, then they would get 4 points. Or, which is harder to keep track of because you have to track it every week, the rankings every week. Or, so either, I don't really care about that, just so long as it's somehow consistent. What do you think?
I like it. I think the point system's easier because you can't, there's no complaining.
Right. Yeah.
It's straightforward. Boom, here you go. And it's out of, per 5 points per matchup.
Yeah. And again,
I think it's easy.
And it's not the only criterion for the playoffs, but if you're going with strength of schedule, then it's a way to quantify it.
Well, it just gives you, again, more incentive to schedule games like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hopefully you win, obviously, but it's not going to penalize you completely, especially in this kind of CFP where you can afford, a loss or two.
Now, I had another idea based on, in this theory, of at the end of the year, the teams that you beat, say, in your conference, I want to weight this in the conference, did you beat a better than 500 team, or did you beat a less than 500 team in your conference? And you get maybe a bonus point for that.
Okay.
Again, it's just, so when we're looking at, again, did 3, this year the SEC had 10 out of 16 teams with 500 or better records in conference. Big Ten had 8 out of 18. ACC had 9 out of 17. So those 10, 8, and 9 teams that you beat, you would get a little more credit for that versus beating Purdue.
Okay.
So you get more points. You would get a bonus point or something beating Illinois, and you wouldn't get anything for beating anything more than beating Purdue. That's just an idea.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
Is it something to work on?
Yeah, I mean, if the CFP has a new job title, up to you, man. Up on it. Just do quick math.
It's
Perfect.
It's the CFP guy with an idea position.
But yeah, I mean, I know the argument to that is, well, the CFP committee kind of does that already, but they do it through their eyes.
Yeah, it's their impression, and I know that I'm not criticizing them, but because they have to do what they have to do. But it's just a little bit better way to.
What's concrete? At that point, it's concrete.
Alabama can go, look at our strength of schedule, and it's so many points. And Indiana can go, look at our strength of schedule, and it's so many points. Mm-hmm. And you can't really argue with it. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and it could also be used as a tiebreaker, like say if both teams are, 10-2, whatever the case may be, 11-2.
Yeah.
There's one spot.
Now, do I think 11-1 SMU and a 9-3 Alabama? I think Alabama wins that game against SMU every time. Every time, I think Alabama will win that game. So I can see both points. I like SMU's their position because they were 11-1 in their conference and they played in their conference game. Alabama did not, but of course their strength of schedule was a lot higher as opposed to because people are complaining. Well, Indiana doesn't. Indiana's worse than SMU as far as strength of schedule. So they should have bumped Indiana out too. So I'm hearing that now.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
No, it's not. No, it's not. But it's easier to just go, okay, well, what's your points what's your points on your strength of schedule? Okay. And the
thing is, and the caveat to the whole Bama thing was, okay, your strength of schedule is this, but look at the teams you lost to.
Well,
they have bad losses. At the time, they are bad losses.
Yeah. But this doesn't quantify losses. It just because I thought about that. I'm like, I don't know. Okay, how do you quantify a loss?
Yeah. Just do minus points and just do the opposite.
Yeah. But right now it's easier to just award or acknowledge wins versus
the wins are a lot easier for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you want to do some tiebreaker or whatever, I don't know. We can work on that. But anyway, so that's that idea.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good rough draft. So the point system's concrete, and you can't really argue it.
Yeah.
Because now by this whole CFP committee, how do you guys look in our eyes? That's very subjective. A point system is concrete. Boom, here you go.
Yeah.
So I'm more of a fan of something that's not as subjective because anybody could say the argument of, well, Bama's better than SMU. On paper, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
And if you do 100,000, NCAA football 25 matchups, Bama's probably going to win the majority of those.
Yeah.
But did you play in your conference championship game? Did you go 11-1?
Yeah.
Did you barely lose in your conference championship?
Yeah. No.
The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah. I mean, same as they've got nothing to complain about. They have nothing to complain about.
Nope. You guys lost to Vanderbilt, and you guys got destroyed by Oklahoma.
Yeah. So, what do you think about Texas then? I was just totally unimpressed with yours.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the stat line looks good, but you didn't play well.
No.
The numbers don't tell the whole story.
A lot of bad throws.
Yeah, some bad throws, overthrown and underthrown, and he looked rattled. Looked insanely rattled.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been Quinn Ewers' season. Like, he has a couple games where he looks lights out. You're like, oh, yeah, this he's a dude. And then you have games where, just like this Georgia game, like the moment was almost too big for him. Or when the going got a little tough or, towards the end of that game,
yeah, he
just didn't really have it.
Yeah.
It came down to coaching, I think, and Kirby obviously won that battle.
Yeah, that last interception he threw was like, why did you throw that ball?
Well, and then it all comes down to that just absolutely piss-poor targeting hit towards the end on the backup quarterback for Georgia.
Yep.
That just won the game for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you got to be a lot smarter than that. And with the second you saw that was, I mean, you could just wrap it up, throw it away. I mean, that was super easy. But I mean, credit to Georgia. That's a lot of adversity.
Yeah, it is.
Your starting quarterback goes out and is probably out for the CFP.
So how do you think about Georgia going on? Because they're just the backup quarterback, and he's the one that got his. As when I played football, you got your bell rung, son. Get back in the game.
Yeah, he was tasting the purple.
Woo! Been there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, from some good old, you know, I love the Twitter world.
Absolutely.
There's a couple clips.
You are.
I try.
You are.
But there's a viral clip that came out with Carson Beck talking to the backup, and the assumption was they were talking about the injury in Beck's mouth, that it's bad. And if it is bad, you're probably not getting Carson Beck for the CFP.
I mean, his arm?
Yeah.
Yeah, he couldn't lift it up. I don't know how he took the snap.
So, yeah, it's not ideal for Georgia. And if I'm Georgia, it's going to be tough. We're going to have to figure out where that rushing game's been all season, because they haven't really had a consistent rushing attack.
Yeah.
And the Georgia teams that we've known for the past, 5-10 years?
Yep.
Their rushing attacks are usually very solid.
Yep.
And they don't have one. And now you don't have your starting quarterback in the CFP. It's risky business.
Yeah, it is. Now, it also brought up and I do think the seeding is wrong. It just doesn't. It ought to be more like the March Madness. 1 plays 12. Because it basically the number 5 seed has the easiest path.
Well, I argue that it's Penn State. Penn State at 6 has got the easiest way to get to the finals.
Okay, right. Yeah, because they're doing Boise, right? They're doing Boise.
It's brutally easy.
Yeah, and Oregon's playing either Tennessee or Ohio State, right?
Yeah, I mean, they gave the best team that's been the best team all year round the hardest
route
section.
Yeah.
Ohio State typically, or actually for the most part, has been the second-ranked team in the nation, or the second-best team overall in people's eyes. They have the hardest way from the first round to get through. But not with no bias. Now you can believe it or disbelieve it. I still think they have the best chance of winning the whole thing.
A lot of people do.
After seeing this weekend, after seeing some of these teams struggle, I mean, we lost to Michigan, and I get it. Like, that's terrible. It's one bad game. It's one terrible game. Hopefully we shake it off. But the roster is so much better. The talent is so much better than Tennessee. Oregon's going to be a very close game, I think. But look at what Penn State just did. Our offense is a hell of a lot better than Penn State when it's actually working.
But our offensive line isn't good.
Yes. So hopefully.
You mean?
Hopefully. If that gets figured out, then I'm a lot more comfortable, and I think a lot of people are going to be more comfortable in that assumption that this offense is better.
Okay, well.
But if the O-line's not there, we're screwed.
So I know you're not Coach Day, but how do you improve the O-line right now?
Oh boy. Well, I don't know if Hensman under center is going to be the answer, but I don't know who else there is that can snap the ball under center. So that would be my first big question: is who can be the center? Who can snap the ball and not be a complete dipshit, basically? Who knows how to give the ball to Will Howard in shotgun and under center? That's all we need to know, and knows how to call out protections,
right? Or
feel where the blitz is coming from. I feel like we didn't really have that.
Right. Someone made a point that if you're doing a long snap and it's low, and you're constantly bending over to get it off the grass or whatever, you've lost contact with the game as a quarterback. Whatever, you don't know what the defense is doing at that point. You got to stand up and reorient yourself to what's happening, and that's very difficult. I didn't even think about that. And they go, that is extremely difficult for a quarterback in a pass play to find out what's going on. So, yeah, that's very, very important.
It just shows, like we said last week, the loss of Seth under center was insanely massive, and how much better he got from his last snaps at Bama comes to here and is just one of the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know the exact answer to the offensive line question, but my hope is that there is somebody in that locker room that can step up and be able to do this damn job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because everything else, for the most part, I wasn't insanely upset about.
Right.
Outside of the center play.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. But that's, your offensive line is obviously critical because our defense was spot on, I thought, against Michigan.
And if that's the defense we get throughout the CFP, that's going to make some noise. That's going to make a lot of noise.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my point system. So give me your thoughts on the schedule for this then, for the CFP.
Overall, I think I like the matchups. I think overall the matchups are going to be interesting to watch.
You think Indiana has a chance against Notre Dame?
Kind of, yeah, because we've seen Notre Dame have good offense, and then we've seen Notre Dame struggle.
Yeah.
Their biggest, I guess, up that's on Indiana is Notre Dame has a really good defense.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can slow down any part of Indiana's offense and make them one-dimensional, I think that's key for them.
Mostly the passing game, right? I mean,
yeah.
So, what are you predicting here? I'm going to predict Notre Dame victory.
I think Notre Dame wins, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than some people may think. Okay. I'm not a huge believer in Riley Leonard, and I know a lot of fans aren't either. The rushing attack is pretty solid, so that's going to benefit them in the CFP. But if the rushing attack gets stuffed with Indiana's front seven being as good as they are, that game gets a little more interesting.
Yep.
And then if it's an ugly football game, I think Indiana can win that game.
Huh. Okay. All right.
But that's just my initial assumption, because when I saw it, I was just like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And Indiana's not traveling very far at all.
Nope.
So that's also a benefit to them.
Yep.
And I think the coaching styles for Cignetti and Freeman, that's going to be a pretty interesting clash as well. Mm-hmm. To see who's going to be more aggressive for that game, with both of them being relatively aggressive coaches. Mm-hmm. But I like the matchup. I don't know if Indiana can, really pull it off, but I wouldn't be surprised if they kept it super close.
What is your take on the fact that 3 of the 4 games are going to be played in cold weather? Obviously, Notre Dame and Indiana are both cold weather teams, so that's.
I love it.
Do you think
that is true football?
Because Tennessee can get cold, but it's not.
But it's not.
OSU.
It's not Midwest cold.
It's not the horseshoe. Yeah, that close to the lake. And then and Penn State.
I think that's beneficial for sure.
Penn State up in those mountains. Oh my Lord.
I think it's huge for the Midwest teams.
Also,
especially if you're coming from the South.
Yeah, it's OSU in the shoe, December 8 in the evening.
Yes, at night. I mean, it was cold from the Michigan game. Yes. And you had the wind obviously in the shoe.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Which isn't great. That one's going nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a night game in the Midwest, and you're playing a Big Ten team that is just. You have a bunch of hard-hitting SOBs.
Yeah, that live in the cold. Yeah.
That love this.
Yeah.
And you're not like you said, not terribly far from the Midwest, but it doesn't get this type of cold.
Not
But I think it benefits. It definitely benefits the home teams.
Yeah. If
100%.
I was Ryan Day, I'd be doing a lot of practices out in the cold, outside.
Yes. Yep.
in the
Prep.
horseshoe at night.
Prep yourself.
Yeah. Get out of the woody haze. Play out in that field.
Yep. Get
Yeah.
used to that hard turf. It's not going to feel. It's not going to feel comfortable.
So here's how bad it gets. The weather gets in Tennessee, right? So my mom lived down there, so I would go down there. She lived in Nashville, but so Tennessee's, they have like no snow removal for roads. They don't have anything. And their theory is, God put it there. God will take it away. So even the least smallest amount of ice or whatever, it all just shuts down. So anyway, it can get cold, but it doesn't get this cold.
Interesting.
Yeah. God put it there. Well, God will take it away too.
Yeah, sweet.
Why should we?
Saves the taxpayers some money.
Absolutely. They don't have to buy salt, don't have to buy trucks. They just shut everything down.
Yeah, we do that. We don't have school for a week.
Yeah. If it's that bad, yeah, forget about it. Yeah.
That's funny.
Anyway, so you're going Notre Dame.
Yep.
Close though, right?
Yeah, I could see it being close.
All right. SMU Penn State.
That's it's intriguing to me.
I think Penn State's going to win.
I think it's intriguing. But yeah, I think Penn State, Big Ten football, just beats up SMU.
I would just run the ball. Now, what I didn't understand about Oregon last night was, that Aller loves to run the ball. He scrambles and loves to get those 8, 10, 12-yard scrambles. And he just did it time and time and time again. Why didn't they have somebody just assigned to him to spy on him to stop that? Like, people, you knew that he does this every game, and you just let him run like crazy. That was the weird thing about their defense was just letting their quarterback run free.
Yeah, and frequently.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I think
that was the crazy part.
I think he'd rather run it than pass it. But I know, who knows, watching the game here. My fantasy quarterback is the man who's now barely getting up off the turf.
Justin Herbert just got smoked.
He just got whammed.
boy.
I think it's his arm. Oh, God.
Yeah, this is your fantasy hopes just falling apart.
Well, it happened early on, but yeah. Oh, they're bringing in Heineke from, God, how long has he been in the league, Heineke?
He went from gym teacher to backup quarterback.
Yeah. Covered the ball spot, dude. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, he got smoked for sure.
He's in trouble. Anyway, so enough of my problems. So anyway, go with Penn State.
Yeah, I'll go Penn State, and I don't think it's close. I think they run the ball efficiently, kill the clock. James Franklin finally gets a decent win under his belt finally, and then he'll start running his mouth.
Oh, yeah. Clemson, Texas.
You might think I'm crazy.
I know what you're thinking.
I kind of like Clemson.
I do too. Just because
I think they're playing better. At this moment, they're playing better.
Yeah.
As much as I love Debo.
Oh, yeah.
Debo, whatever.
You're a big
I
fan.
hate him anyways.
Yeah. Whatever his name is, you hate him.
Yeah, whatever it is. But yeah, I think Clemson's just overall playing better than Texas. Even though Texas was just in the SEC championship game, I wasn't impressed.
Is it yours? Is it all based on yours performance?
Yeah, I think so.
How Texas goes.
Yes. If Quinn plays bad, Texas plays bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of how their defenses looked.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Georgia only had 16 points. Like that's the argument against that. But I don't think that was completely Texas's defense limiting them. That was backup quarterback in the biggest game of his life shitting down his legs. That's what it is. And then they're running the ball, killing clock, and then it's going to be a low-scoring game due to that.
You think they'll have Manning in there more?
Yeah, I could see a Nick Saban like massive substitution if the going got tough. Of like, all right, Arch, let's go, and see if it benefits him, especially if it is, relatively close and it's just not working. I mean, if you're Steve, that is your. I mean, this is your chance to finally get to the promised land.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not? Why not? You've seen Arch play, and he is not bad. Arch is pretty damn good.
So you're not going to give the fact that they're playing at home any credit?
No, I think it's going to be tough. I'm not going to by no stretch is Clemson going to go in there and beat them by 20-something points. But Clemson's defense has looked really, really good. Now, the second half with SMU, they kind of blew it a little bit, but I think overall that defense has played better, and Clemson's offense as a whole has just looked better.
Yeah. Coming on
so
strong.
yeah, I mean, I kind of like Clemson in the upset.
Okay. All right. And Tennessee, and coming into the Horseshoe, 8 o'clock Saturday night.
We got to go Buckeyes. I mean, and Vegas is typically not wrong with the spreads, the initial spreads.
What is the spread?
The spread is 7. 7 Buckeyes. So Buckeyes are favored by 7.
Okay, but that's at home, so it's not that big of a spread, is it really?
Well, typical home spread, you get 3.
Right. So, yeah.
But I think I was surprised it was 7 because of the loss that we just had to Michigan.
Yeah.
And I think they're scared to make the spread any bigger. But 7 in relatively big games, that's a lot of points. So the initial spread I'm surprised about. But, yeah, I'm not giving up on Ryan Day like a lot of people have already. Like, I'm annoyed for sure, but I'm not giving up yet because he's been to the championship before.
Right.
He's been on big stages before.
He's been very close.
And he's been close, a couple times that he's been in these situations. Mm-hmm. Someone just has to light a fire under his ass, bring out this Ryan Day from Georgia, and then everything will be okay. As long as defense plays as well as they did the last couple weeks, we get some pressure on the damn quarterback.
Yeah.
And make them one-dimensional too. Keep Tennessee's quarterback in the pocket, limit big plays, and make sure Denzel Burke doesn't get burnt. and Davis Igbinosun doesn't have 15 PI calls.
But doesn't the fact that our field goal kicker is sucking change our play calling as well, or what we do?
The more I think about that whole scenario with the kicker, and talking to some people that were at the game. Now, obviously, this is an excuse, and you can take it for what it is. Mm-hmm. But apparently, the wind in the shoe was that bad to where you couldn't gauge anything. Uh-huh. So I will give a slight benefit of doubt that it was tough conditions, but those are chip shots. You got to make those.
Yep, no excuses.
Yeah, there's no excuses. So I mean, there's that. But due to conditions at the time, like you know what? Okay, but you are a D1 Big Ten kicker.
Yeah.
Make the damn field goals.
Make the damn field goals. Yeah.
So
anymore, if it's under 40 yards, it's a chip shot. It should be.
Oh, and now when you go to the pros, anything 50 and under, you should be making them consistently.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I'll take Buckeyes. I still believe. And the shoe's hard to play in. If you haven't played in the shoe before, it's intimidating.
Yeah. Well, Tennessee
and Tennessee's coming to the promised land. So.
Tennessee plays in a nice stadium, though. I mean,
they do.
They don't mess
around. Do.
So,
but it's a little bit warmer and it's not as massive.
Right. So, does OSU cover the spread then?
I think so. I think Ryan Day's fighting for his damn job. I feel like that's how much pressure he's under is, like, if you don't do something, like, this is it. And honestly, his mindset should be that. Like, you just got embarrassed. What is the best way to get rid of that embarrassment? Win a damn national championship.
Yeah.
It starts against Tennessee.
Yep.
So do your job, Ryan Day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There we go. I agree with you. Although I think I'm really scared about our kicking game.
The kicking game scares me, but I think offensive-wise, something will get figured out. And I'm hoping that this Michigan game kind of lit a fire under everybody and gets the offense going to where we know it should go and score as much as it should be scoring.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see. So we have OSU winning. We have Clemson winning. We have Notre Dame winning. And Georgia winning, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, they'll be in the second round.
Oh, they'll be in the second round, right?
Yeah.
So of the first round, we've got OSU, Clemson, Penn State, and Notre Dame. Two Big Ten teams, Notre Dame and Clemson. You good with that?
I like it. I mean, that Texas is spread at 11 right now, so we're looking kind of crazy. But hey, screw it.
So then it's OSU versus Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the chart in front of me, but who would Notre Dame play then?
Notre Dame would be going to, I believe, Arizona State.
Okay, Notre Dame, Oregon, OSU, and then Georgia would play.
Let's see here. So you would have winner of Clemson. We'd have Clemson play Arizona State. Buckeyes playing Oregon. Penn State, Boise State, Notre Dame, Georgia.
Notre Dame, Georgia. So who would play ASU then?
It would be Clemson for our picks.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So then we have Notre Dame, Georgia. I gotta take Georgia.
Ooh, boy, oh boy, oh boy. I kind of like Notre Dame.
Okay. Because of the quarterback situation?
Yeah, the quarterback situation is scary to me.
Okay. Okay, so we're going Notre Dame there. I'm taking OSU over Oregon.
Yep, I am as well.
Clemson, Arizona State.
Taking Clemson.
Wow, okay. Clemson's on a roll here. And
they hot.
Then I think Penn State beats Boise State.
Sadly, I would love to see Boise State make a little bit of noise, but I'm thinking the same.
Okay. All right. So that's as far as we go right now. So have you thought any more about my question to you during the Boise game of why hasn't some big team with a ton of money tried to buy Gentry and get him to another program?
I don't think they truly knew how good he was going to be. I think it was just kind of an unknown.
Was he not that good last year? He's got to be that good.
I mean, he wasn't really anybody that people thought of. Like, yeah, Boise State, decent running back,
Yeah, Mountain West.
Whatever.
Mountain West, da-da-da-da.
Yeah, and then you just see this guy putting up, 4+, 5+ touchdowns in a game, 200 yards. You're like, oh, okay.
Does him being, though, at Boise State potentially at some point hurt his draft chances?
I think he'll be a top 10 pick, for sure.
Okay.
Especially with the teams that are going to be in that area, like my boys. We need some running help.
Even though running backs aren't being valued much in the NFL right now.
No, I mean, but you see what the Falcons did with Bijan. So Bijan Robinson's been good for him. But yeah, it's not nearly as valued as it used to be.
Yeah.
When you had like the Todd Gurleys and the Zeke Elliott's and like those big name dudes in their prime that we need to get these guys now. But yeah, I still think top 10 wise, he's got great value.
Okay. I hope you're right. Anything else for the college?
We got one hell of a CFP coming.
Yeah.
Got some good. I like the matchups. I like what could happen.
Yeah.
And everyone loves the drama, and that's why the 12 team is going to be solid. I think is there's going to be some drama.
And I know some people with Penn State are pissed, or Penn State, Alabama are pissed, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
I think it's all fair. Yep. At the end of the day, it's fair. Yep. Bama controlled their destiny, and they blew it.
Yeah, win the game. NFL this week. Not a lot of.
The slate was kind of crap.
Yeah, it was.
It was kind of crap.
I'm looking at the games and I'm like, okay, Steelers are going to beat the Browns. They did.
Steelers destroyed the Browns. God.
Hey, they scored 14 points, buddy.
Yeah, there was towards the end of the game, BS touchdown. Who cares?
So what about Philly and Carolina? Is it Carolina?
Yeah, that was something about Carolina is intriguing to me though. Like they're playing a lot harder with Bryce Young under center. And they kind of, I know they're losing, so there's not a ton of momentum to gather. But they're not playing bad.
I know.
I mean, they damn near beat Kansas City. They damn near beat Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So Canales and Bryce Young might have something going. I think they're cooking with a little bit of oil here.
Yeah.
So maybe next year they might be relatively decent. Who knows?
And then NFC South. Do we just send for a squad to pick everybody up and take them to the?
Oh my God! Atlanta is just so bad.
But I mean, Tampa Bay's not exactly lighting a fire here.
Yeah, but at least they're winning.
They are.
Atlanta and Kirk Cousins, it's just... I mean, you've already got Atlanta fans calling for Kirk Cousins' job, and they just paid this dude $160 million.
Welcome to the Cleveland Browns.
Well, you guys signed a guy that does some pretty questionable things in his personal life.
Hey, he just got cleared by the NFL, buddy.
It doesn't matter anymore.
Don't you forget that. Don't you ever forget that. Oh God.
Oh gosh, but he also got guaranteed $240 million to be just below bad. Like you can, there's a section where it's bad, and then there's Deshaun Watson.
And you know, I like Jameis Winston, but man, he can throw some very inaccurate balls. Man, he can just What the heck?
If you want a quarterback that could throw 400, 3 touchdowns, 2 pick sixes, and you barely win a football game, he's your guy.
He's your guy. But Mike had some open shots today, and it's just, who are you throwing to here, buddy?
Yeah, Cleveland just played Cleveland football.
Yep.
Just very, very typical bad football. Jerry Jeudy's great, though. I mean, you've got something special with Jeudy if you guys can either keep Jameis or find a quarterback that can throw it to him.
Accurately.
Yes. That is key.
Yeah, he can
get him the ball accurately.
Winston can throw the ball. He just doesn't.
Oh, he throws a very pretty football.
He does pretty, right to the ground. Yeah.
But then every other time it's just it's not pretty.
Not pretty. So anything else going on? How about those Minnesota Vikings? My Darnold, you doubted me completely when I told you this is Darnold's year.
Yeah, Mr. Sammy Darnold is. He's playing well.
Yeah, you're playing well. Okay.
It makes that J.J. McCarthy maybe paying Sam Darnold some money.
Yeah.
It's a little interesting now, especially if they make the playoffs or maybe by chance win the North, which I don't think they will. But Yeah, it gets very, very interesting. That's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's playing well. Justin Jefferson's obviously a stud. Yeah, I mean, Kevin O'Connell's he's cooking.
Yeah,
and Minnesota's a dangerous team.
So last week you were saying that Philadelphia was the best team in the National Football League. You still holding to that?
Yeah, maybe not so much after this week, but I still think they're the best. And then Detroit's still hovering around 2.
No, are you just looking at like
and
roster?
Kansas City still has to be 3.
Are you just looking at talent on the roster, or just games played and how they play, kind of thing?
Just about everything. Just record, totality of play. Philly just looked a little rougher today.
Yeah.
Passing attack's a little flat. But their benefit is, I mean, they have Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
When the going gets tough, just hand the ball to that man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's their benefit. And then Detroit obviously has their dual-headed rushing attack, and Jared Goff's playing lights out the last couple weeks. So that's beneficial to them. Defense is playing well. And then Kansas City's still 11-1, and they're currently shutting out the Chargers.
Yeah.
So.
Your boy in khaki.
Yeah, jeez. They're doing all right.
Do you think Pittsburgh's going to take the division?
Yeah, I think so.
That's wild.
And I think Mike Tomlin makes a very, very strong case for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, if he goes from last place, well, he was the third play. Yeah, he made the playoffs, but he was the 7th seed.
Yeah, you are 10-3 with a quarterback that nobody gave a rat's ass about.
Yeah, both
of
quarterbacks.
them.
Both of them. Yeah.
Both of them.
And they seem to be.
And you are 10-3 in the North.
And they seem to be in a good rhythm as to when they play one. In other words, they'll keep playing Wilson, but they'll bring in Fields at certain times, and it seems to be working out.
Yeah, it's just a little wrinkle.
Yeah.
Now Russ looked a little struggle bus worthy today.
Yeah, well.
But defense played well for Pittsburgh, and the rushing attack is solid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all you need. I mean, and Russ is still throwing dimes. That's the other thing. He is throwing phenomenal passes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's looking very, very similar to prime Russell Wilson in Seattle.
Yeah.
So you really, that's what you want. That's what you need.
Yep. Scary. So is Seattle going to take the West?
I think so. Well, LA just beat Buffalo too, so that's a very healthy LA team is good. Is very good.
Yeah, beating Buffalo. I didn't see that one coming.
Oh, that was a crazy game. That was probably one of the best football games I've seen in a minute. But yeah, I mean, Sean McVay's got something cooking in LA. When Seattle's on, they're on. And they did that without Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
They had Zach Charbonnet in their backfield, and he just went bonkers.
Yep.
And now that they finally established JSN as probably their top receiver right now, it's making Geno's job a lot easier.
Yep.
As long as Geno plays turnoverless football, I mean, Seattle's solid. And their defense is relatively good, too. But, yeah, I think they're probably the betting favorites right now to take the West.
Yeah. I think next time we'll probably look at the NFC wildcard. We looked at AFC, didn't we? Then we haven't looked at the NFC wildcard.
Not too much. Not too much.
We'll take a deeper dive into that. So anything else, or are we all talked out with the CFP here?
I think we're good. Yeah, we got a couple weeks for, I guess, not this week, but next week.
Yeah, got some time off here.
For the best moment in college football. So, be pretty solid.
Good. All right. We'll talk to everybody later. Bye.